Alright, welcome to episode 36 of the AMT podcast. It's been really difficult to put out episodes as of late because I'm currently in the midst of moving. So I don't have any of my recording equipment, so the sound quality is going to be a bit subpar on this episode, but hopefully it doesn't take away from what I'm saying. And hopefully we'll be back up and running again in a few weeks' time. Also, I have a little announcement to make. I'm actually in the midst of putting the finishing touches on a risk management and psychology module. It's going to be made available via my website by the end of this week. So it's going to cover everything from staking, risk management, how and when to cut losses, the emotional and mental aspect of trading. There's so much material out there with regards to strategy, and so little attention is paid to the other side of the equation with regards to mentality. So I'm going to cover absolutely everything that I know and I've learned. So hopefully you can learn the lessons and skip the mistakes that I've made. I think it's going to be of incredible value to most people who are struggling or who are new to trading. And I want to put my neck on the line and say it's probably the best piece of material that I've written and that I have available. So that's definitely worth checking out. Like I said, it'll be on my website by the end of the week. So there'll be some further announcements in the next couple of days. Anyway, today I want to talk about the importance of being clear about who you are taking advice from. You see, social media is a double-edged sword. There's a lot of phony scam accounts out there with no body of work or no credentials selling courses with false hope. But at the same time, there's a lot of authentic accounts offering amazing content and value for you to learn from, especially in trading circles. But with that comes problems of its own. Just because two people may be successful, and without doubt successful people share commonalities, but their thought process, their methodology, and their journey to getting to the promised land may be worlds apart. It's very easy to get pulled in different directions with conflicting insight. A rolling stone gathers no moss. In order to establish who you take cues from, you have to find someone whose skills are relatable. So if you're trying to start a fitness regimen, it's no good watching a day in the life video on YouTube of a top tier genetic freak, IFBB level bodybuilder who's on a strict diet, drug and training regimen. Instead, ideally, you want to find a personal trainer who's built his physique naturally, who's experienced with helping newbies get started. That's where you'll find more relatable and actionable advice. If you want to learn sales, it's no good speaking to a 10 out of 10 looking, well-dressed saleswoman who's number one at her agency. Instead, you want to learn from the middle of the road average Joe who's had to overcome every inherent natural deficiency he has in order to be the top 10% at his agency at what he does. It's easy to be charmed by those who are at the top of the food chain, but that doesn't necessarily qualify them to give the best advice. Everyone probably knows that one gym bro who's got just a crazy physique but doles out the worst advice and nobody can call him out because he looks better than everyone. People who are supremely talented in their field, as inspirational as it may be, cannot relate to someone who's had to work hard and overcome and outwork their natural deficiencies. And that's why I maintain that in order to qualify who is best to take advice from, you need to find those who've started on a similar journey to you. And trading is no different. It's very easy to be wooed by 4, 5 or even 6-figure trades. Yes, it's cool and it's motivational, but if you're not accounting for what markets, what level of staking and risk tolerance that somebody else is operating from, you could end up in a lot of trouble trying to mimic what they're doing. If you're averse to risk, you're going to be very stressed and mentally fatigued learning from someone who has a bigger bankroll and longer time horizon than you. It means you'll often be exposed to more risk. You'll have to be more patient for positions to mature, and you'll probably have to watch markets move against you for significant periods of time. Someone who's trading with limited capital can't really afford to have a really long time horizon just to net themselves 10%. So if you don't have a lot of capital and you don't have a big appetite for risk, you'll always be battling the temptation to cut trades early when the price moves against you, or to add to positions and in all likelihood veer off track and lose money. Always remember that it's okay to be wrong as a trader, but it's never okay to be indecisive. So if you conflate your trading methodology with somebody else's, you risk diluting both edges and you may end up losing money Just bear this in mind. The person you're following probably doesn't know you. They don't know what game you're playing. One trader may look at a price and decide it's of no value long term, whereas a trader with a shorter term horizon may look to ride the wave over a much shorter scale, so it may be perfectly reasonable to buy. People get hurt when long-term traders start taking their cues from short-term traders who are playing a different game. Two traders never know each other exist, yet they're in the same market, in that same arena, running towards each other. When paths blindly collide, someone gets hurt. So if I tell you to back at X price, yet another trader is telling you to lay at Y, who is right? What if they're both right? What do? You see, I could be right in the short term and long over the long run, whereas another trader could be wrong in the short term and right over the long term. Being swayed by people playing a different game to you is a surefire way to lose money. No price is intrinsically right or wrong. It always depends on what your goal is. Let's take the stock market as another example. If you're a long-term buy and hold investor, it would be wise to do a discounted cash flow over the next 20 years. If you're a short-term investor, you're better off looking at the industry's potential over the future and whether or not the said company can execute. If you're a very short-term investor, like 1 year or less, then you're better off looking at the company's product sales cycle. And finally, if you're a day trader, then the fundamentals don't even matter, since a profit can be made at absolutely any price, depending on the short-term price direction. All of them can be right or wrong, depending on the time horizon. Take the housing bubble as another example. Buying a 600 grand 2-bedroom flat would probably be a ridiculous purchase for a family who have a 10 to 20 year horizon, but a perfect opportunity to flip for a speculator who's looking to ride the wave in the next few months during a bull market. Different time horizons create different games and throw up different opportunities. Which brings me on to my next point, which is to clearly define the game you're playing. Establishing clearly what game you're playing will narrow your area of focus with regard to strategy, markets, and mentors who are best tailored for you. Personally, I'm a rather risk-averse type of trader who focuses on the short term. I'm much happier taking small, steady, consistent profits. 90% of the time, as soon as my trades move into a position of profit, I start scaling out and removing liability. Now, what factors dictate a trader's personality and risk appetite? I can't exactly put my finger on. Maybe it's inherent or maybe it's a learned behavior. Speaking from personal experience, if I was to reflect on my own journey, I would bet that my trading personality was molded by the fact that I blew so many banks very early on. I either took on too much risk or I got stung one too many times by letting good positions run longer than I should have on what looked like a sure winner until the very last minute, where a horse may have fell over the last hurdle, or a putt lipped out on the 18th hole, or a dodgy scorecard on a 12-round boxing match. Being on the wrong end of those kind of decisions and blowing up several times due to poor bankroll management sort of fed into my psyche and forced me into a defensive mindset where I became paranoid about losing money and just looked to survive. And that's probably why I fell in love with scalping, and it was my go-to tool early on in the days of building up my bankroll. Whilst I now have the flexibility to risk a larger portion of my bankroll on riskier trades, it's rare because the defensive survival mode mindset has formed the bedrock for most of my trading today. And this is evident and on display for all those subscribers who follow me on Telegram. And it's probably a good reason why it's resonated with so many newbie traders who are afraid to lose money. When subscribers tune into my live stream, they're often surprised, or dare I say underwhelmed, by how unexciting and boring my trading sessions are. There's rarely big stakes involved. I normally don't carry significant liabilities, and I'm not making or losing any more than 5 to 10% on average. For those who've subscribed to my newsletter, you would have seen my secret video where I map out my profits to show you what I can expect to make in a year. I'm not going to regurgitate what I said in that video, but in a nutshell, without taking on any substantial risk, when you tally up those £5, £10 and £20 wins on a race-to-race basis, it leads to a substantial 5-figure sum by the end of the year. I make a similar amount of cricket too, despite trading only a fraction of the markets. I've only traded 25 test matches this year, and I've made nearly as much as I have on racing. For those who follow me on X, you would have seen those cool 4-figure screenshots that I often upload during test cricket season. And a lot of people are assuming that I stake large amounts, which I sometimes do, but the majority of those profits come from trading within tight ranges, directional scalping the draw on flat pitches, and essentially building my profits early on in the first or second innings when the prices move the slowest. Hence why I have such a high strike rate. There's traders out there who achieve similar or far bigger results with only a few moves, yet they're exposing themselves to much bigger moves in the market, which I'm averse to. So whenever I upload a 4-figure screenshot on Twitter, it gets plenty of traction, likes and DMs, people wanting to learn or copy, thinking I'm a big-time gambler, whereas in reality, I'm actually just as risk-averse to losing as I am on racing. Speaking of which, if I upload a successful race trading session where I've made 100 quid betting on 15 races, nobody bats an eyelid. It's not sexy, but those are actually the days which I rely on a daily basis, which form the foundation of my profits. I know other people in this space who only pull the trigger on 1, 2 or maybe even 3 races a day, but they bet far more aggressively. Some of them are able to pull out 300 to 600 pounds regularly in a session. I personally know one trader who makes around 10k a month doing this, and as amazing as that is, I could never bet like that on racing. It runs totally counter to my risk-averse nature, and I'm totally fine with it because I'm playing a very different game, a game where I've made the rules with regards to risk appetite, methodology, and staking. It's a game I'm comfortable with and that I can stick with, even if it means leaving money on the table. Which brings me to my next point, which is to aim to be reasonable instead of rational. Guys, you need to understand that we are not machines. We are humans with complicated emotions, screwed up emotions. We all have different trigger points and we all start this trading endeavor from a different start line. Our talent, emotional makeup, and financial situation is different from person to person. But one commonality that we all share is that we all want to be able to sleep well at night. And if that means leaving money on the table, it's a small price to pay to protect our sanity. Staying sane is what allows you to think rationally and optimally. Whilst you may seemingly leave money on the table in the short run, the habit of sticking to your rules and the habit of not stressing yourself out over every decision is going to lead to a net positive gain over the long run as you avoid making bad decisions. Remember, there's no right way to trade. There can be many right answers. There can be many avenues to success. It doesn't matter whether you're risk averse, defensive and like small quick profits, or whether you're aggressive and like to land the bigger plays. The only thing that matters when determining whether or not you're going to be profitable is whether or not you ruthlessly stick to your plan. And you can only stick to your plan if you're comfortable with it. On paper, something can make complete sense. It can be totally rational. But if the strategy involves taking risks that are too high for you, you will never be able to execute and follow through with it. This is why your plan not only must work, but it must be reasonable enough for you to follow through with it till the end. I've gone on a bit, but hopefully I've given you some food for thought. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, not just to the channel but to my website as well, where you will receive a link in your inbox to a secret video which is not listed on this channel, where you can watch me trade an entire UK racing session, and I map out how much I make, how much you need to trade, and just all the important personal questions which you guys are curious about. And like I said, at the end of the week I'm going to be releasing a module on psychology and risk management, and that's going to be helpful for everyone. So stay tuned and I'll see you guys soon.